Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, all the rest of us who are here as well, in another of our APP. Oops. Why doesn't everybody turn off their mics? It's too easy to accidentally make noise. I'll turn off the ones I see. Okay. So yes, this is another in our series of focusing on ARV and learn by doing. As you'll see, you will be doing a fair amount, but we always have a topic, and this topic, ARV and Financials, I've had quite a few requests about that, how people could in fact use their own predictions or the group predictions in financial markets. So we will talk about that in detail. And here's the outline for today. We'll do a tutorial. There are always some newbies here that don't really know what ARV is, and even for the oldies, hearing it again and again, I think deepens it. So we'll do that for about a half an hour, and then we'll get into ARV and Financials, and about an hour for that. And then we'll do feedback for the predictions that were made about a month ago. So we'll talk about that. And then all of you will be making a new prediction for a month from now. So this is the learn by doing portion. So let's get right into what ARV is. This graph, this slide tends to be wordy, but it sort of says it all. So let me go over it slowly and make sure the newbies really understand it. A remote viewing session always has a tasking or a cue, and here it is. It's really quite simple in principle. Describe and or sketch your, and this is something which is called a coordinate or a target reference number. It's uniquely associated with this feedback target. Now, some people I know have trouble understanding what ARV is all about, but that's because they have trouble believing in precognition, believing that indeed you can pick up information from something from the future, which is going to be chosen basically randomly. But that's what we do all the time. Precognition has been shown over and over again to be real, and this is the remote viewing session. You simply describe and sketch your feedback target. You create a transcript which is intended to match the one and only target that you will see during your feedback session. So in linear time, this is the first thing that you do for an ARV prediction. Then later in time, you get your feedback session. The beauty of ARV is you will always know how well you did, because this is the target you were in fact supposed to describe here. And notice I made the tasking the same, because even the experience, of course, is different, because now you have the target in front of you. And yet, what do you do during your feedback session? You make that target as real as you can. You have it shine in I call it UCC space, matrix space. You just have it be as obvious as possible by paying a lot of attention to it, adding information you wish you had done earlier. And so you really, this is a very important session, because in a precognitive sense and in a linear time sense, there are a lot of models now about time, and a lot of these are coming into play because people more and more are realizing precognition is real. But in a linear time sense, information is flowing backwards in time. This was the cause of your excellent transcript here. And in fact, that's called retrocausality. And so those two are obviously married. Precognition is going this way, retrocausality is going this way in terms of jumping through time. So that is, as a remote viewer, what you do. You go here, you describe and sketch a feedback target, and here you spend a lot of time with it, learn based on what you did and didn't do. And some remote viewers do just that. They'll take a random picture and try to describe it and look at the picture and see what they did. But in associative remote viewing, we have in linear time in between this analysis judging session where you analyze, you basically are analyzing your transcript. Now, from that analysis comes an investment decision, whether you should go.
The question is this, are you there?
Yeah.
Can we rent or not?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, okay.
Charles, are you talking to me? No, I think you're talking to somebody else. I'm going to mute you. You can put your mic on again if you want to talk to me. Okay, so this is where you make an investment decision. Now for financials and they're basically binary in terms of one financial, which has a price change. And what we're really asking is, will that financial move up or down? And we'll define that much better in what follows, but we basically use stop and limits. So it's not, is it up from the beginning of the day to the end of the day? That is not what we do. We decided that was not the best way, at least for us. Okay, now, up or down, right? Here's where the word associative comes into play. There is only one feedback target, but at the level of the analyst, there are actually two possible targets. That is the way the ARV is set up. And one of those two possible targets is associated with up. The other is associated with down, right? That makes sense. The actual target, the feedback target shown here, will always be what actually happens. And so if the target associated, the possible target associated with up, which is shown here, and up happens, and it's well described here in this time frame, right? He's got a good, the analyst has a transcript. He sees two possible targets. Oh boy, it really matches this one well. Therefore, it's reasonable for him to assume that he should invest in an up decision, because after everything is done, after the analysis is done, the investment can be placed and the actual outcome, all of that occurs between the analysis and the feedback session. Oops, who's doing that? Please make sure you guys are muted. I'm hearing a kitchen sound. Oh, it may be, I can't, oh yeah, I did, okay. So, I mean, that's it. The association is with the up possible target, and there's another association with the down possible target. the judge looks at the transcript and says, oh my gosh, there really is a good match to one or the other. And if there isn't, he just passes. But if there's a really good match to one or the other, then he can, in fact, make a prediction in that direction, and he or somebody else could invest based on that prediction. And then the stock will move, and we will know whether or not it moved in that direction or not, which would make it a hit or a miss. Okay, so that's ARV in a nutshell. I'll look at it from another angles here to just hopefully have it go deeper in your gut. What we're doing is purposeful precognition, right? It's not a deja vu. It's not the time you thought of somebody who you haven't seen for 30 years and a minute later they call on the phone. You know, that's precognition, but in a different way. We're doing it on purpose here because we'd like to invest. And so precognition actually begins with your feedback session. As you can see, we consider that to be extraordinarily important session. It's also the session where most learning goes on. Now, the cue, as always, is the simple cue. Describe and sketch your, here's the coordinate or transcript reference number, feedback target. And then the judging occurs in between. Now, what is the feedback target in the work that we do? Everything we do is online, so we can have people from all over the world participate, and indeed they are. So what we're using for targets are what we call photo sites. Now, what's a photo site? That refers to a particular location, okay, at the particular time the photo was taken. Now, consciousness is expected to gather information from the photo, right? You can easily get colors, shapes, lots of information directly from the photo. And possibly, and I think many of us do this automatically, but you can actually will your consciousness to actually go to that site to pick up more information, again, at the time the photo was taken. Now, your task, as always, is to describe and or sketch what can be obviously verified from the photo. Very important, because remember the judging stage? He is going to be looking at a transcript and the two possible photos. You don't want to give him something that's 100 feet away from what's actually in the picture. That won't do him any good. So what is obviously verified from the photo? And of course, these include, and what are very important, are what first impression gestalts. The sub seems to, you know, pick up the big picture stuff, and I'll be talking more about that. But then all of your other senses are active. Your subconscious mind, if you will, your higher self. I don't know what you're going to call it. The matrix. Ingo Swann called it the matrix. Is able to be connected with your conscious mind, what you're aware of in this now moment. And you do that, of course, in your daily life. But in remote viewing, the ability to activate your whole nervous system is there. So you can get visual, sound, smells, taste, tactile sensations. You pick up emotions if there are emotions at the site. Sometimes you might have your own emotional reaction to the feedback target. You can get ideas from it. Anything you can get with your normal nervous system can come up. The key is to be able to recognize it's coming up from your subconscious. Now here's an example. here from this photo, right? If this were your target, you could clearly pick up the colors, but you can also, just even without sending your consciousness there, you know there are sounds. And the shininess here, smoothness, that's the kind of stuff that might come up in your remote viewing session if this indeed were the target. Now, I want to make a point. There is still some vagueness in this in practice. Those of us who've been doing remote viewing and judging for years and years know that if the transcript has persons in it or throwing, your judge, the RV judge, will probably mark those elements as matches, but not all. There are some people who are really very strict about this, and all they want is what is in the picture. And you and your judge, need to work that out. And some, period. Now, I haven't mentioned independent judge. I've been talking about this as if there is someone else doing the judging. In practice, a lot of people can't find a second party to do the judging of their transcripts. And self-judging is very widely used, and there are a lot of people who do quite well with self-judging. Period. It's sort of a debated subject. A lot of people, including Joe McMonagle, would say you should never do that. And it's for the reason it opens up another channel to describe the wrong picture, since now you're seeing both of them. However, that's something you can get over, as we can show by the many people who have. Okay. Big piece of advice: practice, practice, practice. Joe McMonagle used to do at least one session a day, 6 days out of the week. I guess he took Sunday off. And he just believes that, use it or lose it kind of thing really, really matters. But again, one of the rules in this business is the viewer is in charge. So everything you're hearing from me are my recommendations, what I believe about all this, and I definitely think practice, practice, practice is important. The idea of this is really very straightforward. Now let me show you how this works with our WE code, Winning Entanglement Online code. And this is tasking that goes back a couple of months now, 2-3 months now. And this is something in groups other than this group. We have like 10 financial groups and 2 or 3 sport groups. And so that group name would simply be there. But this would be what the tasking email looks like. Very straightforward. The event, and then you just simply click here. And when you click this link, you will get your coordinate, okay? And it will ask for your email address. So that coordinate will be unique to you. In these webinars, it turns out we'll all use the same coordinate, just, oh no, I take it back. Your coordinate will be unique to you, period. And so you put your email address in here. Webinar workshop is what we're going to be doing. That's highlighted. These are some of the other groups. And at the top of this page, this is the key page for entering your remote viewing session. But when this comes up, your coordinate, after you put in your email address in the previous one, your coordinate will be right there. So you then do your RV session. and you must save it on your computer. This is the way the whole page will look, and we're going to be doing this later, so you'll be seeing it for you with your email address there. But the coordinate is there. You've got it. You do your remote viewing session, and then the next thing is you go to File Explorer or something like that, and browse for it, because you need to get it into our server. Then you hit submit. We have a copy of your transcript. When you hit submit, this is when, so this is so precognitive, and you just have to use your precognition, because it's only after you've completed your transcript, upload it, you then hit submit, then our server randomly chooses one of 800 prepared possible targets. So that happens when you hit the submit. Okay, so when you click submit, you're now in a position for either you or your IJ, your independent judge, to do analysis judging. If it's an independent judge, what you do is send to him your transcript and let him do this step. So he'll upload it and click submit, because as soon as you click submit, whoever does that, the next thing that happens is you see the two possible photos. Now, the way I programmed it now is the first photo comes up by itself, and I recommend you judge that one all by itself on your transcript. And we'll show you how to do the judging in a moment. But ultimately, you come up with a TARG 0 to 7 confidence scale. And then if you go a little further down on the page, you get this picture by itself. So you sort of wipe your memory of this away, you judge this one independently, and then you'll get this page with both of them. Some people like to just come here. Again, the viewer is in charge. And the TARG confidence ranking, do I have that next? Yes, and you'll always be able to click on it here, and then this will come up. It's a 0 to 7 system. Russell Targ did this while he was at SRI with a few other people, but he's the first author, so we give him credit. 0, 1, and 2 get you from no correspondence, little correspondence, but chance. You know, you might get 1 or 2 colors right, and you wrote a bunch of other things and nothing else is right. And you say, okay, well, maybe that's just chance. And experience is a big winner here. Wait, let me cut off. Okay, now 3, for the first time, we would say you've actually connected up psychically. You've got a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the correct to indicate that you've made contact with the target. And maybe they're reasonably good, but you know, this would be on the margin. We would call that a 3. You know, it wasn't super strong. There were a lot of incorrect elements as well as the stuff that you got right. Maybe you didn't get the gestalts. Now 4, okay, so 3.5 we consider wagerable. We used to keep things integer, and people were always complaining, is this a 3? Is this a 4? So we have a 3.5. We don't want to consider something to be wagerable at all at 3. But if you give it a 3.5, you are basically saying, I'm willing to bet a few bucks on this. Okay? A 4 goes up to good correspondence. Notice these words always have a little vagueness, and that's why this is called analysis and judging. Good correspondence with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. But good correspondence, by the time you get up to a 3.5 or 4, I would say half of the elements on your transcript the words, the sketches, at least half need to be good, need to match. Now, by the time you get up to a 5, he's raised the language to not only good correspondence, but with unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. I mean, you've got some stuff there that seems really strong in terms of matching that possible target. And you might still have some incorrect information, but as you're moving up, you have less and less. Now, something we'll talk about later is called analytical overlays. And this turns out to be very important in principle and in practice, and actually less so here, because by the time you get up to a 5, you've got yourself a really good transcript. But what an AOL is that's when your analytical mind, when your day-to-day thinking mind, your ego mind, your intellectual mind, the part of you that gets you through your day-to-day stuff. Nothing, it's great, very important. However, the subconscious mind is what is connected to the future. And it communicates in different ways, and it has a different feeling about it. When you ever talk to the good remote viewers and they're keyed in, they know they're keyed in. There's just a different feeling for the information coming from the subconscious. So here, when Russ talks about also you getting good analytical information, like you might name the target or name the function of the target. You get a 7 if you can name the target with no incorrect information. Here you got relatively little incorrect information, but you had some stuff which you marked as AOLs. You know it, you got red, you got round, and you said basketball. There are a lot of red and round things. The fact that you jumped to basketball is your analytical mind. Okay, so this is the TARG. This is the TARG system. Now, I want to now tell you what Joe is recommending for judging, and I hope when we do a prediction later, you will try this out, and I will remind you about this then. The key for him is that 50% of the value of your weighting should be on first impression gestalts. When you first see that picture, you sort of get the big picture gestalt of it. And so these figs have values of 0 to 1. The fig is like smacks you in the face. It gets you in the ballpark of all the stuff that's going to follow. Though sometimes these will actually come later, though they tend to come at the beginning. And there can be more than one. There might be a really super dominant color, and there might be a huge building, or there might be a big mountain and water. But these would be the major big picture stuff. Okay, then in addition, the other 50% comes from this element matching fraction. The element matching fraction is you take your transcript, and every element on your transcript, you do mark with like an A. We actually will use little a's and big A's. A little a might count for half a point. The big A will count for a point. And you add all those up, and then you divide by the total number of elements. So a lot of people have been using this one actually for a long time, where they simply go to their transcript and they either put an A, a B, or nothing, and some elements might have an A or B next to it. But this fig is the new element. This, of course, is between 0 and 1, since it's a partial count over the total. And then the fig is 0 to 1, and then we simply multiply the sum of those by 3.5. So this was really Joe McMonagle's approach that I stole and put it in a 0 to 7 format. this is an example of that. And you can see the B's and the A's, and there were a lot more B's. Counted up the B's here is 24, counted up the A's is 13. There were 34 total. And she actually didn't use this technique. This is an older transcript, but I went in and simply said, when I looked at this, I actually gave her a fig of 1. She got everything. It's rare to be that good, but if you look at this, you'll just see she got the liquid, she got the outdoors, she got mountains, she got sky, she got trees, she got waters here someplace. She virtually got everything. So I gave her a fig of 1. If that was a fig of 0.75, fine. I gave her a fig of 1. Here's a ratio, and all we can do is this one, because this was the actual target. She had done this judging before, but I don't like to show any other than real targets. So the ratio 24 to 34 was 0.7. The fig is 1.7. So this is a 5.95. So I would have given her a 6. She gave herself a 5. Okay, so that's the formula, and it's arithmetic. Minimum is 3.5 to be wagerable. I actually more and more are recommending waiting until you get a 4 or 4.5. And you can always turn these things into passes. Let's say you had a 3.5 and a 3. You could turn them both into 3.5s. That would give you a pass. By both, I mean the confidence rankings on that judging scale. Also, if the confidence rankings are only 1 apart, in other words, you got a lot of good information from both, almost like your sub was looking at both, you might consider passing. Turn the two numbers into the same. If you got a 4 and a 5, you might do that. But the viewer is in charge. And the judge is in charge of doing the judging. And then I really believe, we give you graphs. Watch your hit rate and always be open to improving your ARV protocol. Okay, so for the feedback, again, you'll have a link. You'll click on it. It'll ask for your email address. And then you will see the 1 feedback target here. Boy, that was a lot of words, but let me tell you, when you start doing it, all you do is follow 1 link, and you do each one of these 3 sessions independently, and it's actually easier than I think all my words might have implied. In fact, I always recommend you just jump in, and that's the best way to learn. Okay, but feedback, again, is so important. It's not going to change here if you happen to get a miss, but you're establishing a protocol for the future ARV predictions that your sub can count on. So your sub knows, yep, I'm always going to be doing feedback. And this session is for learning. You now have your transcript and what you were going for. Just really use your feedback for learning. Okay, and then the final slide in this set is this one. You will get, as you do more and more sessions, a chart like this, which is very, very helpful for learning. The red curve and the hit rate, of course, is the number of hits divided by the number of hits plus misses. We ignore passes. So the red is the cumulative. So this person's cumulative, his first one was a hit, then he went, or she went down to like 35%, ended off at 59, 58%. Okay, very reasonable, credible. 50% would be chance. The blue is a 10-day moving average. Now, what that means is on any given day, when this session was over and we knew what it did, the computer looks at the 10 last non-pass days and comes up with your average. So you notice these always go to the different tens. And so notice this person was down again as low as 30% in the last 10. So she got 3 out of 10 here, which of course brought down her cumulative. But then she went up to 80. And then she went down to 10. What's going on? Well, I can't tell her or him. They need to figure that out, in my opinion. Now, maybe if we watch them in detail, we might come up with suggestions, but this happens even after you get more experienced. You see it here. She got up to 90% in her 10-day. Here went down to 40%. And I really believe understanding this is an inside job. Julian Mossbridge used that with me once, and I love that expression. It's something going on inside you, right? Something with your communication. Now, the green curve, I consider the most important because I am interested, and I hope you are interested in the long term. We are going to go into a consciousness paradigm shift where this stuff becomes more and more accepted. I heard someone predict 10 years, haven't the slightest idea if that's true or not, but but we're living in the now, and we're among the kind of people that are furthering it by opening up ourselves to the abilities of consciousness. So 25 days is the longest one. It's just like the others, except now on any given day you go and you take the last 25. Notice, well above 70%. And that's what we're looking for in our Precog Pros. We have a whole Precog Pro program. I won't talk about that now, but we're willing to pay people. But we want them to be well above, we'll take them in if they're steady at 65%, but we want them 75% and above. And the big issue now is reliability. What is it that causes, here she was doing great, and then her 10-day goes down, which of course brings down the 25. Right now, this person is above 60, coming in very close to the 65. Okay, so this chart, what's going on with you here? What was going on here? What can I do to improve it? Now, one hypothesis is, just like there's a fear of failure, there's a fear of success. What are the implications of being really successful here? Do I really want to be that successful? That's one of my key hypotheses because I see this so often. Okay, any questions on that before I go on to ARV and Financials? Okay, Brett, I see your question. It was mostly RV sessions. So ARV is RV. It just has all the other, stuff associated with it. But in his case, it was mostly, I know he does ARV. He's done it for us and for others. But I think during most of his career, he was just being tasked by the military. He did some on his own, and those were RV sessions. Okay, so let's talk about ARV and Financials. Now, I just always want to start off, because this is so important to me, just to recognize that I really believe that the primary benefit of ARV and applying precognition is creating this strong working relationship with your subconscious mind. Imagine if you can build up this relationship, you can ask all kinds of things. The capabilities of the subconscious mind, you want to call it the higher self, the matrix, the universe of collective consciousness. Every culture, different names and multiple names in different cultures. But whatever that connection is, it's a recognition that there's something much deeper than the physical that we're all connected to, and part of that connection is personal to us. We have a personal submerged consciousness. And all of these are the non-physical, and I'm willing to call it spiritual aspects of the universe. Okay? So building up that relationship, I mean, come on. Try to tell me something that's more important than that. Now, the money is important. Financial considerations are important because this is a very practical thing that you could use. Once you master this, why not earn money one way or another? And people have been doing this, and they're doing it now. They certainly did it with remote viewing. Joe Monaco earned a lot of money. Well, I don't know. Anyway, some people are doing it, but it's like infinitesimal in terms of impact on society. In terms of society and getting to this consciousness paradigm shift, precognition is this obvious application. Financial markets are going to be impacted by this in a positive way, is my belief, but certainly this is an obvious application. So that's why it's important. Now, here we go. Here we go. We're going to start talking about the stock market. And I love this. So a normal broker, a good one says, hey, I've got a stock here that could really excel. And presumably he's going to talk to the client about it and tell them why he thinks it's good, fundamental charts, whatever. But then somebody is listening in. Really excel, sell. For whatever reason, there's sell. This is madness. I cannot take it anymore. It's a goodbye. Goodbye? Bye. That's not how the market really works, of course, but I like that cartoon. Okay, let's talk more seriously now about ARV for financials. It's binary with up or not up. Now, we're not going to say not up every time. We say down. If it turns out that it starts at a price and ends at exactly that same price, that's so it's exactly the same. That is a down because it did not go up. Okay, you understand? That's very rare. We are currently using the SPY. I'm going to be telling you all about that. It's a stock and ETFs. And the key is the derivatives, these highly leveraged derivatives called put options, commodity futures. So to make this practical, you need to have this highly leveraged situation. But that leverage works both ways, and you really should not start doing this until your hit rate is up reasonably high, and we'll talk more about that. Now, the SPY is also called a spider, and it's the S&P 500 trust. Okay, so it's that's why it's an ETF, exchange traded fund trust. So that's a legal thing, but it's just like a stock in every way. And it trades on the New York Stock Exchange ARCA under the symbol SPY. Now, SPY, just for practical purposes and people trading this, is designed to track the S&P divided by 10. So this fund is the largest ETF in the world. I like using that. Because, there's not going to be any one group able to manipulate it as far as I can tell. It's huge. Now let me just verify and let me talk a little bit about charts here. I think you all know about stocks. You know that stocks move up and down. This is SPY. This is daily going back to December 2018. And I hope you can read the prices here. Here it was at 265 and went down to 235. And it oscillates. And each day, this turns out to even have a lot of information, because you can see here's a scale 295, 300, a 5-point change is that big. Here's a 5-point change, but there are a lot of days where there's just closer to a 1 or 2-point change. In fact, here's a day where there's probably even less than a 1-point change in one day. Okay. Here's a day where it was a 10-point change. Now, let me explain these. These are called candles. I think the most informative kind of charts for those of you who don't know this stuff. And yet, if you want to get into it, charts are one of the things you might want to look at. The bottom of the chart is the low of the day. The top of the chart is the high of the day. If it's red, this price is where it opened and then it went down. So that's why it's red. Here's one where it opened and then went up, and that's why it's green. So each one of these bars has the high, low, open, and close for, in this case, the day. But as you'll see, you can do this for any period. Okay, 265, that's SPY. Here's SPX over the exact same period. Notice, started at 265, 2650. This one went down to 2350, that's 235. So it turns out not to be exact, but it's very, very, very close. You can see the shapes. You can see when there's sharp drops, captures all of them, jumps. Here's a 5-day, and I switched to Yahoo because a lot of you don't have interactive brokers, which is what I use as my broker. You know, there's so many brokerage firms out there, but they do the commodities as well, and we'll be talking about the S&P futures in a moment. But here, same sort of chart. Yahoo has this. This comes from finance.yahoo.com. They've got lots and lots of information on all these stocks. You can get historical information. So here it is for 5 days. Here's the opening. You can see the gray, and then the rest of the day is here. And it's quite active. Now, I want to talk about our trading strategy now in this context. Some people have used and may still be using. I'm going to get in at the opening, right? The opening, and I'll get out at the close. And this day, you know, that would have worked fine. But notice on this day, the opening was here and it closed very close to that. They missed the possibility of getting this kind of downturn. Also, they never know what they're going to be getting by doing it. So we use a stop and limit approach, but we always get in at 6:30. So we get in, and 6:30 is when the New York Stock Exchange opens, 9:30 Eastern time. But I got tired of always thinking that, so I'm thinking my time. So 6:30 a.m., and that's when an order would go in. You know, up you would buy, or sell order you would normally sell. But as I'll show you with options, it's a little different. But we use stops and limits for deciding when to take action. So let's say, and we always show what we call a line, which is the price distance from the opening price for the stop and for the limit. We use the same thing. So here's an example with the line of 1, and we're going to use that in the rest of my presentation. We're going to assume the line is 1. I actually vary it based on volatility and stuff like that. Some people don't. They might always use a 1. But the line will always be given to you. So notice here, it was in here. The market went down, and it went down more than 1 point, 296, 295. So here it was pretty close to 296, and it went well below 295. So we got in here and out there, and that was a down move. So the actual outcome on this day was down. The people who predicted down will be quite happy. Anybody who might have predicted up for whatever reason, they will learn probably more than the people who predicted down, and they should. But notice, this was what decided the up and down. So I still will get calls about, hey, the market really was up. How come you were out? How come you went down? This was the reason. Now, and this is going to lead to the leverage. Big deal. A 1 point move out of 297 is only 0.34%. Who cares? And yes, and that's why we use derivatives, which have much higher leverage. And that's the next thing I have to explain to you. But let me just summarize what our strategy is to make it absolutely clear. If the prediction given by the analyst judge was up, we would buy in at 6:30. We would then put in a sell order and make money at a price 1 point higher. This actually would activate what I'm going to show you with the derivatives. And then we'd have a sell stop order in, which is down 1. Okay, so this stops us from losing any more. And then the exact reverse for the down. If you're going to sell when you go in, then -1, and then this would be +1. Any questions on that? Okay, yes, there are so many sites out there for viewing charts and stuff. But when you're using ARV, frankly, you don't care about any of that. Believe it or not, all the stuff I'm teaching you now, you don't need to know any of it. All you need to do is describe and sketch your feedback target, and then do a good feedback session. Okay, but I'm first going to talk about the futures market with something called ES, and then we'll talk about calls and puts directly on the SPY, and I'm going to give you a sense of the leverage on that and how you might use it. Okay, so this is ES. Now notice it's an ES is a future on the S&P index. Since it's a future on the index itself, notice the numbers are up near 3,000. I'm going to later do an approximation for you, and I'm going to say it's about 3,000. It's really lower, but that certainly makes the arithmetic easier. And since it's for the future, December 20th of this year, it actually has what's called a premium, because as you're going to see shortly, you will be able to buy or sell this at a very small fraction of what this contract is really worth. And again, shortly you're going to see that. What I've got down here, just to show that ES follows with a multiplier of 10, pretty much this, except notice this is at 2972. Here it'll be 2960 or so. The prices are a bit lower here, but the movements and the change in prices are very, very similar. So I just want you to know, we talk about all these things, and in many ways, that's why they're called derivatives, but the way they follow each other is very understandable. Okay, let's talk about leverage in what's called ES. ES is the mini S&P, and commodity brokerage firms provide what's called margin. Most of you probably know about stocks, and there's margin in stocks. In the stock, the margin that you can get is 50%. They will let you borrow 50% of the value of your purchase. So if you wanted to purchase $10,000, you would only have to put up $5,000. But that means if you're making a small gain, you double it. Not real interesting for us. So now let's talk about the leverage in the ES. The trading class, okay, so here it is, the EX, the exchange and all those details you don't want or care about. It is called the E-mini Standard & Poor 500. The key number for us is this intraday initial margin that you have to put up for what's called one contract. And let me show you now what one contract is. One contract is basically one of the E-minis, which is selling at a price of roughly 3,000. Okay, so you could go into the market and buy one of those. And I just want to make this clear. If you come in here, you could buy one contract at $29.40. You would go in, you would put a buy just like any other stock. That's its price. You would buy it. But now how much is that contract worth? In stocks, you typically multiply by 100 if you have 100 shares. Here, 1 point is worth $50. Now let's go through this arithmetic so you understand it. If 1 point is worth $50, the price of this ES is roughly 3,000. Therefore, the one contract you bought is worth $150,000, and you're only putting up $4,646.25. Let's call that 5,000. And so you're only putting up now 0.33 rather than 50%. So you can see the leverage here compared to the stock market is well over 100 times. It's enormous. Okay, and let's notice one other thing which is relevant to how we might trade this. Remember a 1 point change in SPY, which is our basic line? That's equivalent to a 10-point change in the ESs. The ES is like the Standard & Poor 500, so it's 10 times higher. So that means a 10-point change times the 50 means that we would get a profit or a loss of $500 on a margin of about $5,000, and that gives you a 10% profit without commission and fees. So this example shows why we go to something like the ES. Now, in a day, and I don't recommend this, but in a day, if you put whatever your bankroll was, whatever your account value was, into this, you could have it change by 10% in one day. That's too high, I think. But if you have a really, really good session, maybe 5%, maybe 4%. The viewer is in charge. Wager wisely. Once you master this, get rich slowly. Okay, so that's the futures. Any questions on that? So I don't know why, Michael. I guess those of us have been doing this for so many years. It makes so much sense. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, but I'm glad. If it goes over your head, you just stick with doing the remote viewing. and get in to become a Precog Pro, and we will do the trading for you, and you will get paid. So you become a paid Precog Pro. No questions on the ES. Okay. Well, up and down, it is long and short. I mean, you're buying or selling, so you're all ending off long and short. All of these terminologies, though, are pretty easy to see their equivalents. Any other questions? Okay, let's go now into calls and puts for the SPY. By the time you understand this, those of you who care to, and I know some of you want to, but that's why you're here, you will understand call and puts and how to use them and the leverage. So this is data, and it's a snapshot. So this was sometime, I took this snapshot yesterday off of the options information that I get from my Interactive Brokers account. And it's for SPY, and the price at that time was 293.88, roughly 294. Okay. These are the bid and ask for each of the strike prices. Now, options, well, okay, let me go forward. We'll come back to this. Here's a definition of a option in general. It's a contract, it's a legal contract that gives the owner the right to buy the underlying security at a specified price, its strike price, for a certain fixed period of time until its option. That's the call option, okay? So the call is associated with the buying, the going up. And that's actually because if you take this to expiration, and I've never done that, I doubt if any of you will ever do it, we're looking at a price change in a day, but some people actually want to fix a price and have it delivered to them, okay? So they're calling for delivery of this on a certain expiration date. Hey, that's what happens with wheat and corn. This stuff goes way, way back in terms of how our financial markets work. And now a put option is the same thing, again, just in the opposite direction. So here it gives the owner the right to sell the stock at a certain fixed price until its expiration. And some people might want to do that for long periods of time just to fix the price. We're going to be doing it within a day. And you can have expiration dates which vary from 1 day to years. So, back here. Here are all the expiration dates for one option date, October 7th. I always like to be a week or so, 6, 7, 8 days apart. They had one which was like 1 day apart, 5 days apart. They really have a lot of this. This has become an enormous market. But what we're looking at here, and this is the same as you saw before, is the October 7th expiration date. So all of these are for that date. Now remember, we're going to get in and out in 1 day. Now, what have I circled here? The 294 is close to this 293. Okay, up here, I just reminding you an up prediction means to buy or call. But what we're always suggesting is you buy the nearest out of money call, but other people might want to do something a little different. But notice what happens if I were to do this. The current price is like 294. Let's say I want to go up. the prediction was up. I could go in and buy a call for $1.56. Now, this is just like stocks. You really multiply this by 100. One contract, it will cost you $156 per contract. So they've carried over the stock idea of the nominal buys 100 shares. Okay, so, but nevertheless, just the price is 1.56. Now, these are all the strike prices. Let's go in and buy this one. Now, watch this next chart. Okay, so we're buying this 295 out of the money call at 1.56. Roughly, if during the day this moved 1 point and went from 294 to 295, the price, it would be a really good estimate that the price would be at 209, because these prices, you see how they vary, so they go up as the price here goes down. And that's because calls, I mean, a 288 call has so much money in it already. That's called its intrinsic value, right? If you owned a call here and you called it a 294, you're a lucky stiff because you had it at 288. So that's why it's worth 6, which is this distance plus a little more. Anyway, the key here is it is a good estimate that within 1 day, if the price indeed moved up 1, remember we came in at 295, and it went up to 294. I'm sorry. Right. It went. Wait. What I just said was wrong. We bought the 295 out of money. Oh yeah, but if it was out of the money, it started at 294. If the price went up to 295, the 295 would look very much like the 294, which means the 295 would sell for 209. The value of the call would go up. Notice there's just a 1 point difference there. So you would be able to sell at 209. So you came in at 156, you're out at 209, and this is a good estimate because the way all of these work, and this is so computerized by the guys who play this game, what matters is the strike price versus the current price. So let's look and let's assume the 209 is right. That's a 0.53 profit, which is a 34% profit, not counting commissions. So ES gave me a 10%, which is a lot, but the options can give you 34% in this example. But these prices are all very variable. Let's look at the put now. If there was a down prediction, that means to buy a put because you make money as the S&P goes down, the price of the put will go up. So now we would buy a out of the money. So out of the money means the wrong direction. You can see here's 294. By the time I get down to 290, it's worth half as much because it has no real intrinsic value. Here, a put of 295, you can see the prices go up. So the word intrinsic value, you don't really even need to know any more than what really, you can just look at the prices. So if we are buying a put, okay, we want to buy it out of the money. So that means we want to buy it a little bit lower than the current price, 205. And if, in fact, the stock goes down to 293, SPY goes down to 293, I would expect it to be selling at about 242. So the difference between these two is 0.37, which is 18%. So it's interesting that there's 37% on the call side, 18% on this side, but you can see there's a lot of leverage both ways. I don't know if there are a lot of people who are competing here, so the prices and the differences are lower, but there it is. I just did the arithmetic for you. The key thing is, if you want to get in the put and call market, I hope I've given you enough information so you can do it. You probably ought to study a little more on your own if you're totally new at it. But you can see the leverage is enormous. Now, one other analysis I did a while back, which is very, very important, concerns this issue of commission and what kind of hit rates do you need for the long term to make a lot of money. And so what we've done here is said if you are willing to wager 10% of your bankroll, so you start out with a $1,000 bankroll and your first wager is $100, okay? And we're talking about 1-to-1 odds, which within a day is really where we are. So you wager 10% of a speculative funds or bankroll, starting with 1,000. And again, our interest is always in the long term. We use 240 wagerable. That's probably the most you can do in a year. And then we did 0%, 5%, 10%. So with no commissions, wow, this really looks good. It turns out at about 0.55, and this is called Kelly wagering for some of you that know a little bit about that sort of thing in game theory. At 0.55, you actually lose money. You need to get up, well, actually, you need to get up to a little bit over 0.55 to break even without commissions. But with a 5% commission, you lose money at a 55% hit rate. And with a 10% commission, you essentially lose all your money. So your hit rate is very, very important. Let's look at 60%. 60%, wow, you're well over $10,000. You made 10 times, 20 times your money. But with 5% commission, you're still doing okay. Not going to complain. This is a log scale. That's probably, I don't know, $8,000. You're a happy camper. 10%, you're still doing okay, but not as much as we'd like. The key is when you start getting up to like 70%, 5% commission gets you to $1 million. And then 10% commission gets you to several $100,000. This is where we want to be to make an impact, significant impact on you and society. And to the extent you become a Precog Pro and you get up here, notice 0.65 is not so bad. You make 10 times your money. So 0.65 is okay. It's harder to wager at 0.65. But because you have 35%, a third of the time you're going to be wrong. And so you have to be really, really more careful how you do all that. Nevertheless, what this makes plain is until you feel comfortable that you're in a reliable area, which is higher than 60%, I wouldn't recommend you wager at all on your own. Okay, so that's really important. So this idea of wager wisely for the long term, and I do like to always add, get rich slowly. Building up this feeling that, hey, I finally learned this skill. I'm comfortable with it. I am a reliable 65%, 70% remote viewer. Hey, you can get rich and do it slowly. Don't be one of those people who win the lottery and a year later they're back where they were before because they've badly invested all their money or whatever. And as you're getting rich slowly, you can improve and deepen further your contact with your subconscious. Okay, questions on that? Okay, Anita, thank you. I know some people hate numbers. What can I tell you? Okay, so I think I've answered all those questions for now. So no more questions. Let's go into the feedback session. Okay. I think I'm even roughly on time. Oh, here we go. Feedback from something you've done earlier will start with an email like this. It will remind you of the event, and we're going to be doing this event, which was Will SPY. We're going to be doing the feedback for this event. They did it a month ago, between the 4th of September and yesterday. This is so you can do charts and stuff. And you just click here. I mean, I'm telling you, it's really very straightforward. So let's look at what happened between the 4th of September and the 1st of October. I got this from Yahoo. Again, I went to Yahoo. There are a lot of places you can get this data. And I didn't, in all previous ones, I've shown a chart because it was obvious. This one was pretty close, and the chart, it just wasn't obvious. So I actually went to raw data like this. And here's September 4th, SPY 294.04. And here we are, October 1, yesterday, 293.24. So pretty close, actually, but down. So the question we asked, would it be up between those two days? And the outcome is no, which turned out to be what we call side one in the most general sense, but that's now photo site A, not photo side A. That's photo site A. Previously, I had sent out this prediction, and it predicted based on the group, which was a yes. Group predictions is the big challenge that many of us are facing now. And I'll actually explain to you a little bit why I think that's so. And I had given a description here, which had to do with points, but I did it again. And what I want to show you is we actually had 5 viewers who said yes, 2 who said no, and the 2 who said no were the ones who were right. The 5 who said yes And notice there were 3 passes, but the 5 that said yes were all wrong. That's why group predictions are difficult. There's just something deep going on here, which all of us are trying to better understand in terms of this subconscious matrix UCC world. Now, you think arithmetic is tough. How would you like to understand what's going on with your subconscious? There is so much we do not know. The main thing we know is we know very little. We know a very, very small fraction of the reality of the subconscious. I imagine civilizations a million years in our future would look back at us and just look at us now and look back at their own history and sort of laugh at how primitive we were. Okay. So here, after clicking on that, so this is that feedback email again for the one we're doing. Notice the price changes from 9.4 to 9.1. Now, some of you here actually did this. And so you can do your feedback, and I want to give you, I'm going to click on this, and this is the page that comes up, and I want to give you that link in the chat box. And wait, I need to send this to everyone. Okay, so you should have that in your chat box now. And don't worry about some of these numbers. They're really to keep the database clean. So this is unique to this event. Okay, so those of you who have done this all last month will get your feedback. Those of you who haven't, I'm going to give you 2 examples now so we can talk about this. So here's one. Notice, remember, this was the transcript which was uploaded before this picture was randomly, well, before the 2 pictures were randomly chosen. She gave herself a 5 on this, and the other one was a 0. Anastasia, are you here? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so let me do the kind of feedback session which she might do. First of all, she found out it was a hit. She knew that because with the feedback, and I didn't point this out, it'll say yes or no. And after she made her prediction, she knew she was a no. Plus, now she's looking at this, and the first thing she should do, I believe, is get really happy. Okay, and then let me see if I can use a pen here. First thing, boy, look at this sketch. Sorry for not doing it well, but I mean, I would circle the sketch. I would circle the wheels. God, that dot is so small. Let me move it just to see where I am. Yeah, I would circle the wheels. Wow, look how good that is. Oh, I'd feel so good about that. I would go with the man-made. That was great. Motion energy. Oh, I'm feeling so good about this. Okay, let's see what else I got that looked good. I don't see yellow. Oh my gosh, sandy feels really good. You know, and I'm doing kind of the big stuff. Well, round as the wheels, quiet, no, wavy, maybe. Um, but I would either circle them, mark them, look at them, feel really good about the good matches in particular. Yes, sub, thank you. But now I would say, gee, I wonder what else I could have done there. Well, I didn't get, what would you call that? An off green. You know, she got yellow, would love to get green. How about gray for the sky? Um, really work on those colors. Send your sub. Boy, I would have really liked gray. I'd probably even write gray. I recommend starting a new sheet of paper, put the coordinate on it, your name and date, and repeat the good stuff. Make a transcript that you wish you had done the first time. And this is where you add things like gray, um, off green, brown. She got moving. I mean, she got so much that you might not even have to add too much here. Oh, multiple. Definitely multiple would have been another kind of word that would have been very valuable here. Hey, sub, next time, why don't you give me multiple? Okay, but this was very good. Obviously, she would feel really good about it. Let's see, I think I can hopefully erase this. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Okay, so here's another one. And I'm pointing out right now that she gave her confidence rankings. One was a 5 and one was a 4. I always consider that dangerous. Here it worked. Hers was a winner. And again, the viewer is in charge. Oh, this was Anita, and Anita I know left. Let me see if I can do, I don't like, oh, a laser pointer. Oh, that's better. I won't mark it, but I can talk about it this way and I can see it. So I'm looking at this. Yeah, really happy I got myself a hit. At first blush, it's even not obvious. I always look at the pictures first, but that's me. Again, different judges do things differently. Oh, maybe the candle here. I don't know. Is this a lighthouse? Let's see what color she got. She got red. Textures, rough. Smells, tastes. Wow. I, I wish she was here. She got people. That's a good one. There's certainly people sounds. That was good. Grassy, outside. Well, I'm looking at this and I may be missing something. That's why I wish she was there. But I don't see, if I were to use Joe's approach, or even generally Russell's approach, that I could get this up to a 5. You know, the 5 says unique. Nevertheless, that's what she did. You're getting to see another example of a transcript, like a stop sign. Well, this shape looks like that shape. And this long thing coming down looks like that. Oh, I do wish she was here. And what could this be? Well, this could be the fence. I bet she interpreted that as the fence here. And maybe her V's. circles. But you see, for me as a judge, I'm stretching it to try to find the places where they're good matches. So you hearing me do that, you're hearing, me being a judge. Okay. So that was my little feedback for you, discussion. And for her, I would recommend a new sheet of paper and do the session she wished she did. And that doesn't mean an exact sketch of this. It means sort of a Gestalt-like sketch, and often just the pieces. Let me go to the other one now. Something which I won't be able to do it, but you get the idea. Something which just captured the roundness of this, and also the squareness of this. And she got people, but I don't know how she might show people. Some people have their special symbols for showing it. But do a session that you wish she had done where the judge would not have any problem judging it like I did here. So but that might have been me. Let's erase. Okay. So that's an example of feedback sessions. Spend time with it, focus on it, add something new to it. The red, see, she got so many other colors. Okay, enough. Feedback is for learning. I don't know how to say it any clearer, and I don't know how to emphasize it more. This whole methodology of ARV, it was almost like it was designed to teach you to improve your precognition, to teach you to improve your communication skills with your subconscious, whatever you want to call it, the higher self. I will use the word subconscious, subby, but whatever you use, I think you understand it's the equivalent. Something sort of grander than you that's connected to all that is, that sort of thing. Tell me, what other way? And I'm sure there are some, but this is perfect because you get to see at feedback time your target. You get to see the actual target. That's sort of cool. And this idea of practice, 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 like a doctor or shaman is, if you're really committed to doing this and you want to learn it, do it a lot. Okay. And I showed you that chart with the data. Not only look at hits and misses and passes and the confidence rankings, you can go back online. You have your transcript, but you can go back and get any of your past targets. We save all that stuff for you. That's what's so great about using a server. So you can go back and learn that way. Now, that any of the viewers who are here, did any of you who had misses willing to claim it? And the point I'm making here is so often, and this is part of the learning process, a person will go back, look at their transcript with the actual target. They got a miss, so this wasn't what they described, but they now look at their transcript knowing this is the right target, and they will see, oh my gosh, I didn't circle this, I didn't mark this, I didn't mark that, and that might have changed the scoring dramatically. That's part of the learning process. And that happens a lot. Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Andrea. Like a stop sign, the platform looks like a stop sign on the side. Yes, I should have used mechanical. I would have chosen the correct target. Okay, thank you for that, Andrea. And that happens a lot. And it unfortunately happens even with experienced judges. They somehow get in their mind, especially if the first one they judge is good, that the second one can't be better. And that's a no-no. You know, you wipe your mind clean after you judge the first one, and then you go ahead with the second one. Some people actually try to do both of them at the same time. But whatever you do, just watch yourself, refine it, and at feedback time, pay attention to whether or not you did it right. I love this. This is from Alice in Wonderland. You know, we're talking here, and it's hard to not sort of be serious. And I think being successful here is to not be that serious. You know, there's fun in this. You need to enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. But here's the queen. It's a poor sort of memory that only works backwards. I mean, isn't that cool that way back when, what, 1800s, whenever Alice in Wonderland was done, this idea that you could have forward-looking memory was out there. It's sort of cool. And do enjoy it. Love the learning. What are you learning about ultimately? You're learning about your deeper self. Any more questions or comments on that one? Okay. Let's now do a new prediction. This is the actual one which I sent out, and it is going to be a prediction. Let me just, a prediction from yesterday through the day before my next first Wednesday of the month webinar. So that's a month. And clicking on it would now bring you, and I think I can click on this one. So let me show you, but then I have to give it to you to do because you can't click on it. So this is the way a typical page would come up. Again, it's simple. Turns out to be hard to describe, and it's simple to do. Well, to follow the protocol. So let me put that in the text box. And those of you who are old bees, and I hope none of you take offense to that, the veterans, the people who've been around, who feel comfortable going ahead, you can go ahead. The next step is obviously to put in your email, and then you will get your transcript. You know, I'm going to do something I've never done before, and that is I'm going to take a coordinate, and I'm going to try to do this. It's a little hard for me because I'm so intellectual into this right now, but I'm going to see if I can do it. So you put in your name here, and here's that page we talked about. So I am going to write down my coordinate. I just got a sheet of paper. 4417. I'm putting my name, webinar workshop, and the date at the top. And this is all like starter stuff. On mine, at least, I draw a line across. And then when I really start, I always say the coordinate out loud, 954417, but I'm not really started yet, and I write it a couple of times. But that's me. So we now have a coordinate, so you're ready if you wish, those of you to start, those of you who are really newbies, let me take you through this. So this is the box we just showed. You put in your emails, you get your coordinate. Now you do your RV session. Okay, so that's what we'll do now. So this is a typical way of starting. Name date here, put the coordinate here, and say it out loud. Why say it out loud? It's not like you're trying to memorize it or anything. The vibration of saying it out loud in your body is, I believe, what can get transmitted down to the subconscious and help it find the time when you do your feedback session when you say it out loud again. So it's the vibration in your body, the sounds going through your ear, your whole nervous system, all of that. So I recommend saying it out loud. Now this is a sheet, and anybody who wants one, just ask me for it and I'll send it to you, which contains the kinds of things, and you saw examples already where people ask themselves about textures, colors, smells, tastes, dimensions, sort of geometry, not big, small, sort of asking also for a sketch, sounds, dynamics, temperatures, feelings. Some people like to have a sheet like this. You probably don't have one now, but these are like reminders. It's everything that your nervous system has might very well come up. We put gestalts on the top on this sheet, but they can come up anywhere, but first impression gestalts are important. And then your sketches. Most people seem to intermix all of this, which of course is great. The viewer's in charge. When you're doing your session and in your remote viewing mode, some people have very strict protocols. Others, if they haven't been trained in a strict protocol, sort of just let it go free flow and take the stuff that comes up and try to get everything on a sheet or two of paper. That's about all it takes. And then analytical overlays we talked about, and also trash. If something comes in which you feel is from your intellectual, analytical side, write it on the right. One thing it does is it gets rid of it, so you can now go back, close your eyes, and ask, quietly, or maybe not, for more information, and listen for the stuff that comes up from the subconscious. So that's that preliminary. Right now, for those of you who are still with me, why don't you take a deep breath? We're going to start relaxing. And key things which Joe McMonagle, best public remote viewer, I think, in the world, Ed May, scientist still working this, worked it for many, 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 many years, and concluded that intention, attention, and expectation are three key things to successful remote viewing, which means successful ARVing as well. So right now, sort of quietly intend to give a good description of your feedback target that you're going to get a month from now. And just pay attention to what your subconscious is giving you, and just everything that's sort of happening, and have positive expectations. Just feel good about this whole process we're about to go into. Joe McMonagle and many others have said this cool down period that we're now just getting into is very important. Joe, in fact, once said he thought it was 75% of he called it discipline. And that's because you want to get into a state where you're in touch with your deep self, that's in touch with the information. And sometimes that takes a while. He found that HemiSync helped him. And I'm going to have that in the background. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes and roughly use 2 to 5 for cool down. And this is what I now am thinking about as connecting with your inner free will command center. I think we all know that in the moment is when we make choices. And right now, the first choice, you might want to breathe in deeply and focus on your breath, is first to be in the now. Get rid of the stuff that happened before, get rid of intellectual, and just be aware of what's going on now. Right now, you happen to be hearing my voice, but get quiet. Then when you feel ready that you're really just in the now, move to your target. Just with your own free will, give yourself the intention to describe and sketch your target, and go to your piece of paper and write that coordinate again and go. After about 2 minutes, a narrator will remind you to turn inward and just witness and write and draw on your transcript what your sub provides. And I'll start now. Okay, you've got about a minute left. Perhaps go down and get another element. Okay, why don't you all come back to your quote normal state? Stretch a little. Oh, that feels good. Do that. Okay, I hope that felt good. People sometimes get deep enough that this idea of stretching and bringing their intellect back might take, a minute or two. Okay, I'll assume you're all with me. Let's see, Craig, did you want to say something or I'll unmute you? I'll mute you. Okay, I'll mute you. Okay, so now, here you did it. You've got a transcript. This now, we get into the analysis judging part and have to figure out whether we want to predict a yes or no or a pass. Passes are underrated. So this would be, if you wanted an independent judge, you just take your transcript, attach it to an email and send it to them. Or easier if it's a spouse or a nearby friend. But one way or another, we now have to take our transcript and match it to two possible targets. First, want to tell you what analysis judging is not. And here would be how a skeptic would do it. I alone know the contents of this envelope. It's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. Nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. So I hope you know the point here. I mean, he used a lot of high-level words, but nevertheless, orange and tangerine, very close, right? Charcoal drawing, ink drawing, beaver, all that. The subconscious will very often use analogies. It's like something else, metaphors, and you'll see that in your sessions. And when you judge, and this is where the analysis and judging becomes kind of a challenge, because you don't want to push it too far. And one of the ways you'll find all that out is by staying with this for long enough that you'll see how the communication with your subconscious works. Okay, so how do I put in my CRs? How do I get to my two possible targets? Remember this guy? Okay, so I have mine, I think, still open, but I'm not going to click on it because that's going to give me my pictures. How do I do that? I don't want you to get confused with my pictures. Hadn't thought about that. Sorry. I think I might be able to black my screen out. Let's see if I can even find mine. God, I got so much stuff open. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the step which I can do. I did generate a transcript. Where now you click choose file, and now I need to get it into my computer. I happen to have a scanner. I think a lot of people simply use their smartphone and take a picture of it and send it one way to their computer. And some people are doing the whole process on their computer. So that's what you should be doing right now. Okay. This, well, I'm just sort of showing you here. Okay, let's see if it's refreshed. And then, yeah, so there is my scanned picture. And in fact, there it is. But that, let me just see if it went into the right place. No file chosen. So I need to choose. So you click choose a file. And for me, I would just click on that. And then when I click this, my first picture would come up. I'm just not going to do that because I want you to do there it is. Okay. So PDFs work, JPEGs work, and I'm just not going to click on that. So I'll do my judging later. But you should be in the middle of that now. Now, when you finish judging, let me get back here. You do your analysis judging, and remember, you'll first get this big picture and judge against that, and then you'll get the other one, and then you'll get this page. But here's TARG's confidence ranking, which you can actually click and see from your judging page, and it should go to a separate screen. Now, we recommend Joe's approach, and so I'm going to put that up here. So this example is what I hope you're doing now, where you mark, and you'll have two pictures, but you do them one at a time. So the photo site A, you mark all the things that match A, and notice little a's, when you do your counting, will count as half a point. Big A's will count as 1 point. And then you do the same for B. You need to count up all the elements. Occasionally, when sketches are more complicated than this, Sketches may even have more than one element in them. And that should be obvious to you. And then when you are done, you click, you need to do well, you've done the uploading if you're this far, and if anybody's having problems, I might be able to help. Okay, so I'm assuming you're all at this stage at least. And then I'll show you something which most people don't usually see. And that is, no, not from there. Let me do it from here. We've used that. I don't know. No, let me do it here. Again, as a manager, and that's what I am in this group, I am the manager. I am going to do a group prediction. Everything that you're putting in goes to the server, and I have access to that. So I will be able to see as you click that submit. Well, actually what I'm interested in is when you give the 2 CRs. That will come up. So this is what your group managers do. And yeah, so this is from the 10-1. Just want to make sure I'm doing the right one here. Yep, from 10-1 to 11-5. So we're going to be looking at the data from there. And here it is. Oh, okay, good. So what I can see is, and you can see, is Craig passed with a 3 and a 0. Niles, and please do not be influenced by anything anybody else does. You saw a perfect example of that earlier, where with the 2 people versus the 5 that ended up being right. Need to learn to trust yourself. Need to learn to trust your subconscious. Very important. But we've got a 5 there. We got another 5 there. Okay, so a lot of you have done this. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I have a summary down here of all the people. I don't have a summary count, though, I don't think. No. Okay. Okay, so I assume the rest of you are doing it and just focus on your judging. Very important. But let's just now take a look, because this is what group managers do. Here is, when I start at the top. Okay, and I hope, okay, so was Niles the first one? Yeah, Niles. Let me, first let's take a look at your transcript. You know what? I'm not even going to do that. First, I'm going to want to take a look at your target. And you chose side 2, so that's photo side B. Okay. What was your, and I'm telling this to everybody for them to get this first impression gestalt. I looked at that and I got roundish gray protruding. I mean, that's what hit me. That was the first impression. I see the tree there, there's green, but that stuff is coming later. But those would be the kind of descriptors which you would like to have for that target. And these little thin things are sort of interesting. So now let's look at wait a second, what happened here? Oh, okay. Now let's look. Okay, so that's way over there. Okay, now let's look at Niall's transcript. And I hope all of you know me well enough. Some of you may just be learning about me, but I just sort of
Marty, this is Nils.
Say it as I say it. Perfect, perfect. I was going to ask you to join us. So
yeah, that picture you showed is not in my one of my 2 photo targets.
You're kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Maybe that picture is associated with the first transcript.
Oh, did you do more than one transcript?
I didn't, but
wait. Okay, wait. Let me go back here.
Go back.
I might have made a mistake. Let me just see if I clicked on the right stuff. I am not perfect. I'm not sure I'm even working on being perfect. So let me close that. Let me go back here. I think I just clicked on somebody else's.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
So let me just find you again, because let's do you since we started with you. Okay, so there you are. Oh, here, you see, here's Niall's, but I bet that's Tony. That's Tony's. Sorry about that. But this is judging. And judging, by the way, the idea is to stay as intellectual as possible, not get emotionally connected. So let me find, there you are. And there, now this is photo site B4U, right? Hopefully. Is that one of them?
Yeah, that's the correct one.
Okay. First impression, green plant, probably that was it. Actually, the green was the first impression that I got. And then I understand the shape and all that stuff, but in a word, that's what I got. Okay, let's now look at your transcript. Thank you, Nav. And here is your transcript. Okay, I should be able to put that over there. Let's see if I can move there, and I can move the green there. Oh my, so the first thing you got looks an awful lot like that, doesn't it? Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, do you have the A's and B's marked? I can't.
Yeah, I do, but it asked me to upload the transcript before I...
Correct. What I would love you to do is attach the A and B one. You know how I used one from somebody else? It was pretty old. So if you don't mind, send that along and just attach it to an email to me.
Sure.
Marty APPI, that'll be kind of interesting.
I'll do that right now.
Perfect. So that'll be another example. I may not show it now, but I mean, this sketch obviously was great. And I just can't read your handwriting, but that's another benefit of doing independent judging.
Yeah, it says nature, flower-like, growing.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful photo spot, sitting in the land, dense object. I'm reading back.
Oh, I see it. Oh, I see. So this is right here. Yeah, that stuff's all good. And even rough sand. Okay, Niles, that's excellent. Thank you very much.
All right.
You know, I think it's just so good for people to see other people's styles. And obviously you've got a pre-made transcript from some other trainer, or you made it yourself, and viewer is in charge. And we see a lot of that. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that and that. And let's go to this again. In fact, let's refresh it because I think I have more people submitting. This is so cool. We have 13 people here. I won't be able to show everybody, so let's just go through the higher ones. Here's a now. When you gave yourself, Niles, a 0, that was a true 0. You couldn't find enough.
Yeah, that
match?
was a true 0. I found
Okay.
less than 0.5 correlation on the other side.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, here's a 5 and a 1. Let's take a look at this one. And this is, and I now have learned to be a little more careful because they do come in at different times. So this is Andy. And hi, Andy. Great. Yeah. Turn your mic on. And I want to make sure I put up the right picture because now all I have are your CRs. But down here, because they come in first, so here you are. You were photosite 2, which is photosite B, and there's your transcript. So let's first look at this and let's see what our first impression gestalts are. Again, you're all doing this sort of yourself, but there are some. There you go. I got big, building, round, maybe green and brown, but those came a little later. Okay, that picture is pretty good. In fact, now that I know I can bring it out, put it there. Oh no, that'll work. And now let's get your transcript, Andy, which is there.
That's an old one. Oh, wait, no, not that one. Oh, and I didn't, for some reason I didn't write my response on there, but their emotion and man-made is what I had.
But I'm not quite understanding you. Is this the right transcript?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I guess I wrote it after I sent it in, but I had motion and man-made, and I just saw.
Right. Okay, so tell us some of the things that caused you to give this a 5.
So I used McMonagall's method, so I get one
Good.
thing man-made. The blue, the beige, the orange, and the sunny were the colors that picked up. I thought it looked like it was kind of smooth.
Yeah, I'd say that's smooth over there.
And then I felt like there was something on top overhead. And I drew that little, it looked like a little train thing down there. But it really
yeah.
looked a lot like that thing sitting on top of that clock tower.
Oh, and you said something above covering shading. Is that what you're saying?
I thought there was something above something else over it.
Okay.
So that kind of led me more towards that. And then there's there are round elements there. I thought there was something coming around. And I think with the clock, I was looking at the clock coming around.
I see.
I saw it coming around counterclockwise. I almost wrote down counterclockwise, but I didn't. I had a arrow there that kind of got covered up.
Okay, and you got outdoors, right? Happy, pleasant. Okay, and the gestalt, what did you give you for gestalt? A figure.
Motion and man-made.
And what did you give yourself for the fig that you put in? 0.5, 0.75?
For the fig. And actually, so then I can send you the transcript, the marked up transcript if you want.
Yeah, why don't you send that along? I think those are quite interesting. Blue, beige, orange. Okay. And this is, this is how you said you gave this a 0.6 for the fig?
Well, I gave it a 1 for the.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I feel like sometimes the mnemonic always pushes me up higher, and then I feel comfortable going there.
Yeah, well, a fig of 1 feels high here, though as I'm looking at this, even though you had 2 circles, you certainly got the circle and you got the rectangle, and this with something on top. This is where this whole thing of analyzing, judging, making judgments comes in. But it's worth.
I think the judging is the hardest part of all this.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Judging some of Joe McMonagle's, and he's done a lot of ARV for us, and then workshops and webinars. He's easy, and I think when you guys get up to 70%, it'll be a lot easier. But for most of us normal people down at 60%, 55%, this is exactly what we're faced with. But I like this. Now that I'm looking at it, I like that. Okay. Thank you very much. And I hope, everybody is sort of getting the points here, seeing different people's styles. What time is it? I think we have time. So let's do one more. I think isn't that Google? Oh, I didn't close yours. I closed all of Google. Okay, well, I'll just go back and bring it all back in. I can do that. I can do that pretty quickly. When you're joining other groups, I hope all of you are in at least one group. This is what your group manager is doing and the information that he gets to see. 10.1 to 10.5. Okay, so we're back. Wow. Scott, are you here? I am so pleased. Leo laugh, and some people have laughed. Oh, you are, Scott. Terrific. Let's take a look at yours. So just to make sure I get the right one, I'm going to put okay. And you did side 2 as well. So let's do photo side B. Scott, why don't you put on your mic so we can talk? Unless you don't want to, you can do it with chat or not do it at all.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Right.
Okay, let me just see if I can get this on the right side of the screen. And then I'll go back here. What did I do? Okay, so I get this on the right side of the screen, but then I lost the first one. Oh, I see, they're still both here. Apparently when there's 2, it didn't like that. It wouldn't let me break it out. see if that's true. I'm going to bring this way over there. And now let me see if there's a Google left. Okay. So now let me see if I can bring up your transcript. And your transcript is here. Oops. Rotate counterclockwise. That was nice. Here's your picture. Very nice, Scott. So
I scored that 1.5, but the other target I matched more with.
oh, I chose the wrong one. I thought you went side 2. You went side 1?
Yeah.
Okay, let me close this. And go back here. So that was my mistake. So this is the one?
Yes.
Marty, is side 1 and side 2 the same for every remote viewer in the group today?
In terms of yes and no, but only that.
In
Because
terms of
that's it.
in terms of
in
up
other
and down, yeah.
Well, this is a yes no, it just
Mm.
turns out.
Okay.
Because that's the only way we can make a group prediction.
Okay, it's not chosen randomly for every.
Yes, no, it's chosen randomly when the tasking is done, and only the computer knows.
Okay, but it's the same for every remote viewer in our group.
The yes no being associated with either photo site A or photo site B or reverse. That's random. Is that clear or not?
Is it random for the group or random for each remote viewer?
Random for the group.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. So that's random for. I'm going to do this a different way. I'm having trouble with Google right now. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, so that's a snip. And now here's Google. Let me put this on this side. Okay, not the cleanest, but I think it'll do. Again, we're all intellectual at this point. Okay, so
Yeah. In my comments, I said I got a strong impression of red in the lower right part of the picture because I get colors in actual spots on the picture and brown on the lower left.
And you said that where?
In my comments, if your comments aren't showing there, the comments you type in when you.
Oh, okay. Got it. But that one didn't come on your transcript somehow.
Right. And then that spiraling, I sensed motion, and that spiraling thing is a gestalt for energy and things like that. And I got motion and life forms, and I drew a little human there next to the red. And I got the brown and the red in the right place in the pictures. And I got a crunching sound.
Oh, yeah, right here.
I didn't get hot, but
Okay, you did. Oh no, here's where you put red and brown. Oh,
yeah.
and that's another good point. All of you are probably seeing that little comment box there. That's really valuable, and that's saved for you. So you will be able to have access to that. Every time you do a feedback, you get a link which will give you all your CRs, access to your targets, and comments. So I really recommend you use the comment box.
And then I wrote I wrote outdoors, and then by dimensions, I got this motion that's sort of like those guys waving those black things around. I was, back and forth and a diagonal.
Very nice. Interesting. And what's that word?
Contemplative. Those were way off. So I
Yeah,
gave
those
myself
are
a
off.
I gave myself a 2.5 on this one.
Oh,
But it could have been higher, I suppose.
I thought you gave yourself a 5.
No, 2 point. I thought
Okay, see,
it was
that's
a
why
2.
I thought it was the wrong one. I was clearly, usually they come in one after another because there are not so many people doing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making excuses for my
Yeah.
errors here. But I look at the red and the brown and the people. I just look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly motion, I would have given this much higher than a 2.5.
It's definitely up past lean towards side A, and not B. Yeah.
Did you use Joe's approach?
Well, I didn't really have time.
Okay.
But I'm definitely leaning more towards side A, even if it's not.
I
obvious.
think if you would have used Joe's approach, you would have been surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one of those things where you would get an A, you'd get an A, you'd get an A.
Yeah, it was definitely all A's.
8 doors motion. I mean, you would have got brown again. And repeats, I give each one a different A. The subconscious is saying to you, brown, brown. I think you might find it interesting to do that because it's a really good intellectual way, and I've seen case after case where it does better than just sort of the straight intuition. Okay, Scott, thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't need this. Yeah. Okay, very interesting. And that was also, I hope, valuable to you guys to see, because I think you'll agree that is such a good match. The smoke coming up. That he should have ranked that higher. And it's another example of how the judging does tend to be the hardest part of all of this. Okay, so let me now look at this and let me see, and I'll show you how those of you who have been here already know that the group manager always submits a group prediction. And I want to tell you as clearly as I can that that is of minimal importance. What's important is what you do. And we see cases where one individual, 2 individuals will be right when the whole group is wrong. Plus, you want to tell your subconscious, trust yourself, right? I'm learning how to communicate with you, and I am going to trust you. And so I'm making my decisions based on my own personal one. The groups are done almost because we have to. There's no other way I can organize all this except by groups to have so many people, doing this. So that's why we do groups. Okay, let me now just take a look at this and see what we have. I'm just going to make, someone else may want to do that too because I am prone. But Brett, I'm going to put a 1 under, I just have a column, yes, no, pass. So let's just count them up. So I have 1 yes. So we now see that side 1, photo side A, is a yes. In fact, this is the first time anybody but the computer really knew that. So that's side 1. Here's a side 2. Bill. And notice, you see how the comments that he wrote in the boxes, they're all coming out here. So the group manager can look at them to get a feeling for how well the people do. At this stage, people usually put in what they did right, or gee, you know, I saw a lot on both, so I passed, or whatever's going on. But okay, so Bill is a side 1. Tony is a pass. Niles is a side 2. Craig is also a no. Side 2. And Leo, yeah, there's your 2.5, is a pass. We're leaning towards a yes, but well, it looks like, so just doing a count. Okay, so there's nobody else missing. This should be everybody. We had 13 people, so some of the rest are just looky-loos, and that's fine. It would be really close to a tie. A 3 and a 2.5 will give Scott a half. But even a 2 and a 3, if they were only 1 apart, I would pass. But the other thing I do like to look at are the highest scores. And here's a 5. And it's a no. And here's a 5. And it's a no. So let me see. The next one was a 4. And it's a no. Wow. So the 3 no's, there were 2 5s and a 4. I'm writing that down. That's my analysis. Let's look at the yeses. A 3.5, a 3.5. Oh, and there were only 2 of those. And then we all saw Leo's. 3.5, 3.5. Wow. This is, I would say, my judgment is this is right on the edge of a pass or a no. Anybody else want to jump in? I mean, you've now seen everything I've seen, and you can see how the group manager has problems doing this. Those 5s look pretty good. I thought Scott's.
How about the session that was a pass, that was leaning towards a no that you said?
Yeah, no, that was actually leaning towards a yes.
Yeah. Oh, it was, okay.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Because it was here, it's right here. That was Leo Laugh. He likes to laugh, so that's his email address. But I know him as he's Scott, great guy. Where is you, Leo? Here. And you can see the 2.5 is here, which says side 1. And then 1. So they were both pretty close. Well,
It's evenly split.
evenly split on counts, really close. 2.5 to 3. I give him a half. But these 5s, and we happen to look at both of those, though Andy's, oh yeah, those are pretty good. I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump and do just as I said. Just if you intend to do anything with this, which is not for a month in the future, it turns out not to be too easy to do, but I'm going to go with side 2. So the way I do that is first I have to make sure webinar, workshop. Remember, this is a group manager doing this. And notice here, it reminds me, side 1, side 2, photo side 8, photo side B. Photo side B is side 2. And I will submit a prediction. So there it is. So those of you who are in this already will get an email. In fact, I'll get an email. Let me show you my email, just so you see what happens. Again, so much of it is automatic. The whole idea of all of this is so you invest your time and energy into becoming a better ARVer. And we've made the system as simple as we know how. Where is the email? Okay. So, yep, there it is. So this is the email. Everybody registered in this group and whatever group you're in. And so it says group prediction, no. In this case, there is no line because we don't have a stopper limit. Remember, the question was a simple up between these two dates. So it was a yes or no, and the prediction is no. Okay, very good. So feel comfortable with that? Any questions, comments? And then I'll try to move on here.
Do you want to speak a little bit about the probability of the future event changing by the time we get to it? So it was correct as I see it now, but not correct a month from now?
I would say that is the single most controversial / important. There are other issues, but I see that as being the high level controversial issue for the following reason. There's one point of view, which is the one you put out, that said the way the universe works is everything is probabilistic, and the best you can do is go for the most probable. Okay? And that was the point of view you put out. And yes, this matrix, the universe of collective consciousness, includes all of that. And multi-universe theory would almost say that each one of those are real in some sense. There's another point of view. And that really is the point of view of the UCC, the Universe of Collective Consciousness. That point of view says every now moment, the now moment that you're experiencing right now, you're looking at this picture, I'll switch. Oh, you're looking at that move up. Those are collections of now moments. They went through your conscious mind. Okay, so these are conscious now moments. And they got down through who knows how, your nervous system, your subconscious mind, your higher self maybe did it, whatever word you want to use, this spiritual-like part of you, put it in, and now this is where the words get really tough, but they got into the UCC. You actually were the creator of it, but the UCC was the creator of it also, because being in the UCC, every now moment, including future now moments, are in there. And that is a different perspective, because it says you're going to experience something tomorrow that is going to go down into the matrix. I believe it's there now. And one of the reasons I believe that is when precognition or even remote viewing of a random, precognition, and somebody gets a 6 or a 7 and it's right on, that information had to be available at the remote viewing time. And now we're talking about 1 out of a billion possible pictures, right? They used to do targets any place on Earth. So the idea that the information is already there, I personally find compelling. So now you know my position, which is different than the first one you put out.
Okay. But if you believe in the probability theory, which quantum physics, of course, believes in, is there a way to do a second ARV session to ask, for example, yes or no, is the probability of this prediction being greater than 70% right?
Okay. The answer to that is yes, you could certainly do that. But I want to go back to something you said at the beginning. Quantum mechanics has the fact that all possibilities are there. They're there in a non-physical state. Everything we're talking about is how the physical world interacts with this universe of collective consciousness. Now, the universe of collective consciousness also contains all of these probabilities. They're all down there too. The most probable state is there as well. But in addition to that is what all the now moments are. So what your now moments are going to be at feedback time, for example. Okay, so that's a very different point of view, and it's a very important point of view, I think, because I think it distinguishes the multiverse theory, which wants you to believe every one of those probable universes are in fact real in some sense, which I never understand. One universe means one universe, one of everything. But that's what that says, versus that there really is only one physical experience that you have in each now moment, and that indeed is stored. And it's in that now moment that you have your free will. So you are a co-creator with the UCC, with the matrix. But you forget your now moments. How many now moments have you forgotten since you were born? And aren't you glad you don't have to have them all right there in present memory? The UCC never forgets the past or the future of the one physical universe that you're in. Okay, we got into, and we did get into what I think is very important, because understanding this universe is what we're struggling with now. And I think precognition is helping a lot. Okay, and yes, the idea of doing a second prediction, I've heard that before. I don't know if anybody's done it long enough to know if it really works. Oh, actually, I do. Some people I know of, and I just won't mention names right now, have used a pendulum to ask whether they should go forward with the prediction or not. So that's sort of the same idea, right?
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Here are just a few slides and we'll finish this off. This idea of precognition is really about you. You, and I use this symbol for sort of the psi part of you, which you create. And I've done other talks on that, but that's the part you get in touch with, okay? This, you are creating your precognition, because look what's happening here. Here you are doing your remote viewing session, and here you are doing your feedback session. And in a magical way, the UCC, the matrix, your higher self, your subconscious mind permits sharing of this information. There's another whole theory of time that says it's all happened. Einstein says the only reason we don't experience it that way is I can't remember his exact quote, but it's too much. You have to experience it a moment at a time, but he actually thought it was out there. Now, target information is available to you from your subby. Hey, be friends with your subconscious mind or your higher self, right? you have to feel really comfortable and trusted and know it's got your best interests in heart and all of those. And I think a lot of people struggle with that when bad things happen. In our context, it's misses. Handling misses psychologically is one of the biggest challenges in all of this. And know that there's a very deep or higher level that let the target info flow into your consciousness. Remember, all of this is happening in now moments. All your remote viewing session is a bunch of now conscious moments that you transcribe onto a piece of paper, but they were in your mind and they came up through your deep self. And the same thing at feedback time. Those conscious moments are there. And I think these go down to the matrix or up to your higher self and then get shared. Okay, and then trust yourself to take appropriate actions to achieve your precog consciousness goals. This trusting yourself, and you kind of get a sense of when good ideas are coming from a deeper part of you rather than just your intellect or someone told me to do this or something pretty shallow. You're deep. You're a very deep entity. And building up confidence. Take a look at the cartoon. Don't you love that? And what makes you think that you deserve therapy for low self-esteem? Right? That's a psychiatrist. But what's important here is to build strong personal confidence. And that's for both the short term, sort of the next prediction you make, the medium term, the next several you make, maybe the next 25 you make, and then the long term, having this integrated. And I hope you actually do that in the short term as well. Integrate this in your life. So you build up this kind of personal confidence and you see yourself getting better and all that. And you do deserve it. Some people don't feel that they do. This idea of fear of success is very real. A lot of people have written about that. Now, with everything I'm trying to share with you here, and I know many others are doing the same thing, we're in a remarkable time. My sense is the consciousness paradigm shift is, in fact, accelerating. The energy to it is accelerating. But keep this being fun. Know that you're learning, you're exploring your subconscious, your deep self, your higher self, and psi in general, precognition, but you're going to see this spread out to other parts of your life. And having said all of that, Galileo, and he was talking about this not in the context of mathematics. I think he's talking about this in the deeper context here. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. So with that, I'll conclude with wishing all of us healthy, wealthy, and a future filled with more and more wisdom. Thank you. So I'll take any comments now, questions. And if we're done, that's fine too. In fact, it's almost 3 o'clock, which is when I do like to finish. Okay, well, thank you all for joining me here. And let me see if I can. Find how to end this, which is there. Okay, all of you, you guys keep precogging.